Mind, Body, and Soul. Today is Tuesday, August the 1st, 2023. It's wintertime in Cleveland. We're experiencing temperatures in the 70s. It's been in the 90s for the last, 4 or 5 days. Uh, there's a couple of things I want to go through before I introduce the guests. I hope everybody had a safe and super fantastic fun weekend. The book of the day, I'm not going to be able to display it, but the title is 10,000 Joys and 10,000 Sorrows by Olivia Holzenbill and John Zen. It's a story about a couple's journey through Alzheimer's. And that book was selected from my library because of all the recent research that's coming out about some of it's not necessarily a cure, but some new pharmaceuticals have been developed to slow down the progression of the disease. If you have any questions or comments you would like to make regarding today's show, especially during the first hour, you can join the discussion by calling area code 216-939-5087. Again, that's area code 216-939-5087. Or you can email them directly to bodytalkradioprogram@gmail.com. Let me introduce two special guests. I'm going to go to the far right first. We have a gentleman by the name of Mr. J. King Woods. And in the center, the most loveliest, and actually, I think you hold the record. Her name is Kylie King Woods. She holds the record for being the youngest guest on Body Talk. I don't think anybody will surpass your record for a long, long time. But when we get into the interview, you'll understand why she's here and why Mr. King, who is her father, is here. I also have to give a salute to her mom. Her mom's not able to join us this morning. Her name is Ashley, if I may. And this family is special. And I don't mean special, they're super special in a way because of this young lady and her dad, Jay, over there. Uh, let's go right to it, Jay. The three of you, and more so the both of you right now, because the two of you are here, you're up and coming young black artists in Cleveland. And there's many black artists, but what attracted me to your family is this young lady here. So Jay, when did you get interested or become interested in art?
I got into art probably age 8, around 7, 8, when I kind of got into just drawing, just trying to redraw the cartoons that I was watching. Not really anything other than that. I kind of really got into it more serious when I got to high school. Met an art teacher who really seen something in the drawing and sketches I was doing. Kind of started realism drawing, family members and friends and stuff, drawing pictures for classmates and stuff. And she kind of introduced me to other mediums than just pencil and paper. So that's kind of what started it all really for me.
And you're using these fancy terms. Sometimes we have to define them for the audience and
Yeah.
for myself. We say mediums. What do you mean by medium?
So medium is just the different forms of art. So painting, putting paint to canvas, putting paper on canvas, markers, pretty much anything that you use to create whatever art piece that you're creating.
So basically, you're a self-taught artist.
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned the high school. Where did you attend high school?
I went to high school in Akron, Ohio, Central Howard.
Oh, you went to Central.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the new one next to the university, or
Yes.
you went to New? Okay. Now let's go to Kylie. Kylie, when did you become interested in art?
I've always liked drawing because I grew up around it because I had art classes in school, and then my dad was always doing art, so I wanted to be like him because he was just so great. But I liked making drawings from like YouTube Kids. They have little art class drawings that I like doing.
Okay. So you copied or mimicked your father. You saw him drawing, and so you wanted to be around Dad. Okay, because I'm jealous here. I'm biased. I'm a father too, and and I have a daughter, and she was always around me, so I know what it means to be daddy's little girl. So, what did he let you do when you saw him drawing? Did he let you go on the canvas with a paper?
I always have some type of paper, like sketchbook and markers. So he'll like make a drawing, then I'll try to copy it. Or he'll show me how to do something, and I'll try to do it, and I'll practice it until I'm pretty good at it.
Okay. Now share with the audience, how young are you?
I'm 10 years old.
You're 10 years old, so you've been drawing what, since you were 2, 3?
Yeah.
About, okay, so you've been drawing for 7 years. You're listening to the Body Talk program on the No Static Radio Network. If you have any questions or comments, you can email them to area code 216-939-5087, or you can email them. Actually said that backwards. You can call area code 216-939-5087, or you can email them to the Body Talk Radio program on gmail.com. So let's go back to you, Kylie. You said you started to draw some YouTube friends, and what were those friends?
So they have many little art class, like cartoon type of things, where they'll do step-by-step drawings, and you follow along. So that's pretty much how I started to draw.
Okay. Can you use, are you right-handed, left-handed, or do you use both hands?
I'm left-handed.
You're left-handed. So this is a special show. Jay is left-handed, Kylie's left-handed, and I'm left-handed.
Oh, wow.
So we all use the right side of our brains. But I have to be honest with you, Kylie. I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. I can design things, but I cannot draw. I wish I could. You mentioned school. Where do you go to school?
I go to school at Hathaway Brown.
Hathaway Brown. Okay. And how long have you been at Hathaway Brown?
I've been at Hathaway Brown since I was 5.
Since you were 5. So you've been there 5 short years. And how are your grades?
Good.
Good. What else do you do besides art? Do you do anything else in school?
We do a lot of subjects. We do science, computer science, music, dance. We do math. We do social studies and literature.
In literature. So you like to read?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's good for you. And if I may, what was the most recent book you've read?
I read this book called Out of My Mind by Sharon M. Draper. It's about this girl. She's disabled. She can't talk or walk, but she has a lot to say. And she got this computer that speaks for her so that she could show everybody who's not disabled like her that she's still smart, that she still has a brain like everybody else.
Okay, before I go to your father with a couple of questions, how many books a year do you read?
At least 5 or 6.
5 or 6 books. So that's about a book every 2 months. And you read some deep books. I've heard about Mrs. Draper, the writer. She writes some very interesting, deep books. Do you like math? You like math. Okay, Jay, let's share with the audience some of the shows that you and Kylie have participated in.
So Kylie has participated in just 2 shows with me so far. One show was a show about generations. So every professional artist like myself, we had, whether it was a niece, a nephew, son, or daughter, we created pieces together, whether on one canvas or separate. So that was her first time actually showing I guess in a large way. We did some abstract pieces. We each did 2 abstract pieces. And then just recently, just a little over a week ago, we had our first opening, just me and her, father-daughter show, homegrown art exhibition, about 5 paintings a piece, and then she also shown 4 of her photographs that she's taken.
Okay, so, it's okay, you can give the art studio, not the studio, but let's call it the museum, where the show took place.
At Lounges on St. Clair.
St. Clair. And one of the things, and that's where I actually ran into the both of you again. Lounges is actually owned by a black guy.
Yes. So Lounges is owned by 2 black men. One is a barber, and the other one is in real estate. Him and his wife are real estate investors, developers.
And if you haven't had a chance to go to the museum or studio, it is really, really a nice place. Now, when I walked in, this young lady was holding court. She had, and we're going to come back to you, my friend. Holding court means she had adults. She's pointing out pictures to them, the type of effort and work she put into it, and we'll get to the photographs in a second. But here Kylie has 4 or 5 grown adults, and I mean they were older because I was one of the younger ones there.
Okay.
Yeah, well, thank you. Your check's in the mail.
Yeah, yeah.
But and they were spellbound by the work that she did. And the other thing that's impressive about you, Kylie, you're very articulate. You know how to communicate. And she didn't run and look for you or her mother. And she literally led these adults around to her pieces. And she explained what they were and how she made them. So, Kylie, the piece that's on the closest to your dad, you did that, right? And what did you call that piece? Do you have a name for it?
It's a self-portrait of myself that I did in my art class in 3rd grade.
You did that in the 3rd grade. And I hope the camera can pick the distinctive lines up. And because if you look at even some artists, I'm not going to put you up there with Van Gogh yet, but if you look at certain artists, to distinguish the facial features because of the nose, the lines in the face, you did that in the 3rd grade, the same thing with the eyes. I don't, what do the flowers of the paper mache on top represent?
So we were learning about a particular artist. He loved flowers and he made a lot of pictures or paintings with flowers. So at a certain point of every year we do a self-portrait. So my art teacher decided to use that artist and a self-portrait and use it together to make that.
So when you're at halfway brown in your art class, are you the best artist or one of the top 2 in the class? You don't be modest now, because I did call you teacher. Are you one of the best? Are you the best artist or one of the top 2 artists in the class?
My art teacher likes to say that I'm good. But yeah.
Okay. And if I recall, did your art teacher attend the gallery opening you did a couple weeks ago?
She wanted to, but she was busy.
Busy, okay. Now, Jay, the big print here that's almost in front of me, that's on the floor, you did that work. And what's that title?
So the title of that is The Exhibitionist. So an exhibitionist is somebody that's, the way I describe it is somebody that's showy in essence. And when it comes to art, that's who I am. I'm a outgoing introvert. I can talk to whoever, however long, but I do like, to be kind of alone at times. So that piece there was kind of just a piece that I love geometric shapes, so I wanted to do a geometric version of myself. It's kind of who I am when it's time to put on an art show or get into an exhibition. I've become a lot more talkative. I hold court, as you called it, from time to time at the shows and things. So that one I did for solo. That was actually my first solo exhibition. I did that one for.
So and you're listening to the Body Talk program on the No Static Radio Network. And if you have any questions or comments, you can call area code 216-939-5087, or you may email them to bodytalkradioprogram@gmail.com. I'm going to hold up something, and I hope the audience can see it. This is the flyer from the show. It was on July 21st. And who did the flyer?
So I designed the flyer with Kylie's help of picking out fonts and colors and things, but I designed the flyer myself.
Now, what type of artist are you? Do you do expressionist art, or do you do?
Yes, I'm an expressionist primarily. A lot of abstract work, but yes, I'm an expressionist.
And this particular flyer didn't come off of a printer, if I can. This is something that both you and Kylie designed. And you, the listeners can actually purchase and frame this.
Absolutely. So we made some small tweaks from the flyer that was obviously posted on like Instagram and things like that. To create a limited edition print, we do have 20 available, and we're selling them for $25. We're not asking anyone to break open the piggy bank. It's really when it comes to collecting and buying art, the barrier to entry for a lot of people is price, because they do not know that there is art and there's things that are collectible or become collectible at a lower price, and then it's just kind of just gets you kind of open to the idea of even just start maybe attending shows and things, and just have a piece of something that we put out there in the world.
Now, I didn't want to skip over you about holding court because I was going to come
No,
back
it's
to
fine.
it. Oh, no, it's not. No. Even at the gallery, you know, what makes the exhibit different and what makes you two different, and I know there are other black artists in and around Greater Cleveland, but what makes you two different is when you are black, your father-daughter duo, and uniquely, if you go back to the show, the mix of the guests in the show weren't all black.
Oh yeah, no. So I say that's a testament to who we are personally outside of art, just who we are as people. You know, her going to Hathaway Brown, and really, you know, she's being modest, and maybe it's just her being 10 and not knowing how to not, you know, how to really kind of speak about herself in a way that's you know, that people don't take it the wrong way. She had a teacher come. Some of her classmates came with their parents. One of her classmates' parents actually bought one of her pieces. So to have your classmate have one of your pieces in their bedroom, that says a lot, you know, for a 10-year-old. So yeah, we're people that we communicate with anyone, everyone, everywhere.
Now, Kylie, back to you. I arrived at the show just about when the doors were being unlocked and the guards pushed everybody out the way.
Yeah.
I understand a piece was already sold. And who bought that? You know, I have to mention his or her name. But share with the audience how that piece was sold.
So the owner of the space, he owns a barber shop, and one of his clients wanted to buy the piece because they had a connection to it. So before it was even opening night, he bought it.
And do you recall the name of the piece that he bought?
Yes. Was it called?
Memories.
Memories. And I wish we could describe it to the audience, but artists, if you can you describe it to the audience?
Yeah. So I created this character. It was a flower person, and it was a collaborative piece with me and my dad, where we cut the person in half, and I did one side in my style, which is more flowy and not very geometric shapes like he does, and then his side was geometric shapes.
You're listening to the Body Talk program on Most Static Radio Network. I hope everybody's paying attention because you use a word that I'm going to struggle to pronounce, collaborative. And what does that mean?
So that means when you get together with somebody or other people and you make one piece, or you come together to make something.
And I'm going to remind the audience, this is Kylie, and her dad, Jay. She's 10 years old. She's 10. Not only is she a good artist, as I said earlier, she's an excellent communicator. She's using 4 and 5 syllable words at 10 and can define them. I know people who are in their 30s, 40s, and 70s who can't even spell collaborative, and she can. Let's move on here for a minute. Do both of you, you first, can you do commission work? In other words, can I hire you and describe something I want done? Can you create that for me?
Yes.
You can? And Jay? can the audience get in touch with you and Kylie?
So you can reach us through Instagram. My Instagram name is jcapo, JAECAPO, and then Kylie's Instagram is Kylie the Creative. You can email us at jcapoart at gmail.com.
And do you have a website as of yet?
Yes, you can reach me also there, jcapo.com, JAECAPO.
Okay. And I always remind the audience I don't give out phone numbers or email addresses or website because I might misplace a number and they'll end some pizza shop receiving orders. You listen to the Body Talk program on the No Static Radio Network, and today we have Kylie the Creative. That's your Instagram, and we have Jay Capo, the father and daughter art duo. So let's go back to the art show. How do you're 10, and you're a mature 10. I mean, I don't want to make you grown, but you're a very well-rooted 10-year-old. And that comes from your parents and extended family, okay? But more so from your parents. Are you nervous at these shows?
Not really because I know I prepare for it and I have him who's done multiple shows to ask questions or to look to.
Okay. Now, where else have you and your father done exhibits?
I've only done 2 art shows. One was at Lounges, which is a space in St. Clair, and then the other one that was at the Deep Roots.
And Deep Roots is?
Deep Roots is a black-owned art gallery on 79th and Central.
Okay.
He specializes in black and brown artists, working with black and brown artists, selling the work, help curate shows. He curates a number of shows year-round at his space, as well as working with City of Cleveland and things as well to curate other events outside of his gallery.
Okay. So, you two in combo, are you working on anything special or secretive that you don't want the audience to know about, but they're listening anyway?
No. I can tell you what I'm working on. I'm trying to put together a solo exhibition for next year. It's going to be a larger exhibition. All of the paintings will be probably about 5 feet or larger. Then we're working on probably the number of probably around 14, 15 paintings. And then I'm working to try to put a movie together as well to go along with it. That will be a silent movie to go along. So they'll be paired together.
Now, Kylie, when do you find time to do your art? Is it after you do your trigonometry and calculus homework? Do you set aside an hour every day or just when you feel inspired?
So when I feel inspired or when I have time to do it after school, because I have a bunch of sketchbooks, so like if I have an idea, I'll draw it down there, and if I want to take it further, I have like canvases that I can cover up, or maybe some vinyl or better quality paper that I can do it on.
Okay. Now there were some prints there, and taken from a camera. I looked at our prints camera, but who taught you how to use the camera?
So my aunt got me that camera for my birthdays. She's a photographer, so she showed me the basics, and we went to the botanical garden so that I could practice with it.
And the prints were basically flowers. And were any of those sold at the exhibit?
Yes, so 2 of them are sold. One was a picture of tulips, and then the other one was a pink flower.
Okay. Let's go back to your piece that was sold to your classmate and his family. What was that print?
That was the tulip.
The tulip. And he bought that. See, one of the things, and you're listening to the Body Talk program on the No Static Radio Network. See, one of the things I learned over life, I like art too, which is a good thing. You don't hang black art. You portray it. And I prefer to say display it versus portray. You display it, not hang, because of the connotation between the black and the hanging. You display black art. And I would like to really see what your home looks like you brought some other pieces with you. Now, what is this piece represent? Is this?
So that piece is called Conflicted. It's a Keith Haring inspired piece. So so he made pieces and he simplified them. So he'll make like simple characters, but they could have a really deep meaning or mean something.
Okay, and if between you and your dad, if you can explain this meaning here in this one.
So this is called Conflicted because if you look at the person on the ladder, they want to go into the light where they're safe, but they also want to make sure their friends are safe. Because under the ladder is danger and fear.
Okay, that's no, it's pretty. It's different. All right, let's do this piece here. What is this? What's the title of this one?
So that one's called Bold. So that's the same one as the bigger one there. So it's pretty much little pictures. There's 9 pictures. They all represent a different story or a different situation that you might be in. And then the middle picture, which is the main part, is like you sticking up for yourself and being bold and letting people know you can't do this.
Because I was going to say the center figure with the crown almost looks like a top of a cake. And is he or she representative of being in charge, or that's when you're no longer afraid?
It's like you're breaking out of your shell.
Breaking out of your shell.
So each of those colors kind of represents something. So the lowest part is blue because you're scared or you're sad or you're afraid. The orange part is kind of like you're getting there. The pink part is like you're almost there. And the red part is you kind of breaking out in anger, kind of, or like letting them know, like, I'm my own person. You can't do this to me. Like, this isn't fair.
Now on the top of the small one, well, that's actually on the larger one too, you have a statement here. Ignorance equals fear. What does that mean?
So that quote's from Keith Haring himself. So ignorance equals fear. Like if you're being bullied or something and you're not saying anything about it, or you're not going to somebody, that's you ignoring it, and that's you being in fear, scared that what's gonna happen to you if you actually do say something.
Now you said Keith Haring. Okay. Who was Keith Haring?
So Keith Haring is an artist who made pieces where he simplified. He did simple shapes, and he would do things like those chalkboards that are at Subways.
Yes.
He'll draw on those. Like it'll take him 10 minutes to make a great picture, and he got arrested for it a couple times, but he still did it anyway.
Now I'm not encouraging you to go on the subway and start drawing on the boards without permission. So is he a local artist, or do you know where he's from?
So he is from New York.
Okay.
He passed away at 20 something, I think. He had a sickness or illness. But he grew up in New York, so he pretty much grew up around art.
Okay, so Jay, do you and the family, let's say when you go out of town, most people go lay on the beach. Do y'all walk around museums?
Yeah, we do a little bit of everything. I mean, we like beaches as well. But yes, we go to art museums, any art galleries. We've been to Pittsburgh, to the Andy Warhol Museum. We've been to all of the exhibits that come to Cleveland. Keith Haring had an exhibit in Akron. So yeah, when we travel, we like to look at the art. We like to be inspired. You know, we honestly can see art everywhere we go. Anywhere, we can look at anything and kind of see the artistic expression and artistic value that it has. So that's one thing that we do when we're looking at stuff. It looks like this, or I wonder why they chose that color.
Now, you're listening to the Body Talk program on the No Static Radio Network. Define, if you, in a simple way, what's impressionist art? What does that mean?
I simply just want to express myself as a black man in America. I want to tell my story my way, using the colors that I feel identify those feelings. Whatever whatever is going on in society, it doesn't even have to be super personal all the time. So if something's happening in society that I want to make a piece to talk about, or maybe I'm feeling nostalgic, I want to kind of talk about how things were in the '90s versus today. So it's just simply expressing myself and getting, my thoughts and my emotions maybe on a paper, canvas, or whatever I'm working with.
Now, you also brought in a couple other items,
Yes.
if you may.
So I brought two pair of shoes that I did. So one pair I did for my first solo exhibition. It was called the Daily Crusade. Because all of the pieces from the show, from beginning to end, told the story of like my life as an artist. So I had pieces that represented the high schools I went to, or the schools that I went to, represented me, and then kind of represented kind of what I go through and things like that. So that's who the colors represent the school that I grew up in, where I really first started getting into art. Those are the school colors. The laces represent the uniform. We had to wear light blue shirts to school, so that's kind of where that came from. There's three pairs. There's only three pairs ever made. This is the only pair that is left and available. They are all numbers, so this is number one of the three. That's this shoe there.
Okay, well, hold on. On the back of this shoe, you have daily.
Yes.
What's the symbolism or recognition of daily?
So daily. There's a couple things that I go by and that I say all the time. It's create daily. I have it on my shirt now as well. To be where I'm at today, I will say it's because I've always did something daily, whether it be sketching, drawing, working on an iPad, just thinking of ideas. For me to be where I'm at is, just trying to be the best I can be every single day. So create daily, and then since the show is also called the Daily Crusade, so it's just it kind of works for both.
Okay. Now, into the other shoe. No, not the same one. Let's go behind it.
Okay.
So we don't. So you can see it's number one, but there's a difference between this shoe and that shoe, left and the right.
Yeah.
Okay. You have create on the swoosh mark on this one. Is that what had to be done on purpose? Yes. It's not on this one. And you painted the leather or did you dye it?
No, Nike has a area on their website where you can design shoes. You get out the colors and materials and different things. Choose if it's high top, mid top, low top, things like that. So I chose the colors that I wanted, and then I did the rest. So the create, the daily, the laces, and then it does come with a box, which isn't here, but I designed the box myself as well. So I did all of that stuff.
Have you designed the box for Nike to make for you, or you did the box separate?
Yeah, I did the box separate. Nike, when you design a shoe, just comes in a white box that has Nike or designed by and has your name on it. But I designed a box. It's a separate website. You can design different shipping boxes and different things like that. So yeah, I designed it myself on there.
And I don't know if the camera was able to pick it up. Did you? I don't want to call it tie dye the shoestrings. They're like a white purple blend, but they're.
So the laces, no. So those laces, I actually bought those. I just went out and bought laces that found the right blue that I wanted. It does come with actually three pair of laces. So it comes with a red pair, and it comes with a royal blue pair to match the royal blue on the shoe.
And so you said you sold two pairs already. Were they sold to alums of the school or just somebody outside who liked the shoe?
People that just like the shoe and then happen to see the show
I'm not a sneakerhead anymore, but these are really nice.
Thank you.
Okay, the second pair.
And then this pair here, I'll pass to you. This pair was designed. I was in a sneaker designing competition at the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. I want to make sure I get the right name since it's changed a couple times on us. There was a sneaker competition where everything was based around equality and things. So they wanted us to come up with a shoe to tell that story, and it was, I believe it was 30 of us. I made it to the top 10 to move on to the next day. First day, we only had like an hour or so to design the shoe. So design one pair or one shoe, and then the next day we did the other shoe. So this was my contribution to the competition. I did not win, unfortunately, but this is kind of my introduction to designing sneakers a few years ago, and that's what prompted the other shoe you showed first.
Now, on this particular one, and again, it says equality on this side, always dream. But when you come to this shoe, which is a little bit different, it has hope and empower the youth.
So
And
each side is the full statement. So always empower the youth, then always dream, then so create equality. So they're full statements. Um, we've seen a lot of things happen over the many years, obviously, in America to people of color, and then all races. But we've seen a lot of things happening, especially because with social media, we have access to stuff so quickly, and it's kind of hard to not see what's happening everywhere, whether it's in our front yard or not. So this was just kind of, I wanted something that had a message, but also was a wearable shoe as far as like design goes and colors go. It's something that you can wear even if you're not, you may not be on the front lines, but you still want to support, the cause or support the messages that are there.
Okay, and I know this particular pair of Pumas, and just the same as plug. That's what I wore in high school, Pumas.
Yeah.
Not Chuck Taylors, we call them. They were Cons or Converse back then.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as Nike or Nike back in the day. They didn't exist. And you listen to the Body Talk program on the No Static Radio Network. So Kylie, what else do you like? Do you swim or anything?
So I was on a swim team, but we took a break. But now I'm going to be on my school swim team this year, called the Barracudas. For last summer and this summer, I did tennis lessons, and then I like throwing the football around outside with my brother or my dad.
So you swim, play tennis, you play kind of sort of football. I know you're better than your brother and your dad. And you're an artist. If you were to lay all four of those things out, which one would you prefer to do all day long? Art. It's a couple of things besides your age. You're a brilliant young lady, okay? Because not everybody can attend halfway crown. Not only from an intellectual perspective, but also financially. Your parents make that sacrifice and continue to make it for you. If you look at what you do, you're a well-rounded young lady, and your grades come first, because I can imagine that your parents wouldn't give you a piece of paper or a crayon if you weren't maintaining those straight A's at halfway brown. And the other thing that's it's rare, and I'm gonna be blunt. It's rare that you find somebody your age who is as polite as you are. You're one of the most polite 10-year-olds in and around Greater Cleveland. I'm not taking anything away from any other 10-year-old, but you are. You're also a beautiful young lady, and you're listening to the Body Talk program on the No Static Radio Network. And if you have any questions or comments, you can call your go-to 169395087, or you may email them to the Body Talk Radio program have some special events coming up that involve you and your daughter.
Yes, we do. So August 6th, NME dance. It's a father-daughter dance. It's actually a little more than just a father-daughter dance. For all of the young ladies out here that have a father figure, it's not always their father. It could be a grandfather, it could be an uncle, it could be a brother. So it's really for all of those relationships. But yes, him and me, August 6th, we are ambassadors this year. We'll work with Latoya to hopefully be ambassadors for many years to come. We really love it.
Okay. And you just did a small, my word, I was back to big. You did a small radio, you did a small television interview. And who was that with? Do you remember?
No.
Um, I apologize if it's slipping from it's getting away from me, but we were on Channel 3.
That guy with the deep baritone voice.
Yes, I know he's been on TV a lot longer than I've been alive.
Right. His last name is Bill.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, Bill. I'm sorry.
Not the mayor, but Bill, the radio, television guy.
Yes.
And what was the interview about?
So we discussed the dance. We got a chance to discuss the art show prior to the opening night as well. But we discussed the dance. We discussed, kind of our relationship and how much she likes the dance and everything. But yes, we got a chance to promote both of those things.
Okay, so Kylie, wait a minute, you left something out. You like to dance too.
Yeah.
So you like to swim, you play tennis, you beat your father and your brother at football, and you dance. What kind of, do you line dance?
I know some line dances, like I know like the Cupid Shuffle and like the Electric Slide.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really know how to dance like you spin on your head.
Oh no,
Break dance.
break dance. Called break dance. Started in New York City. Do you know how to ballroom dance? Is that what you're gonna do with your dad?
We usually just do like a two-step.
A two-step. Okay.
Yeah, we keep it simple.
You keep it simple. Well, you know more than I do. I still don't know how to do the electric slide. I'm still. It's beyond me. I don't know. I can't do it. It's too fast. So let's go back to your art projects. Okay. So you're gonna go back to school. Is your art teacher going to change, or are you in a super accelerated art class now?
So they don't have accelerated art classes, but we do have a new art teacher. The difficulty does get higher since we're going into the next grade, but that's all that's really different about my art class.
Okay, now, and I'm not an artist, as I explained to you earlier. I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. When you say difficulty, you're bumping up, but what are you going to do? Are you going to be mixing your own colors? Got your own paint machine you're going to do, or what?
So we'll be doing more like sewing or more clay projects because those are more difficult to do rather than painting.
Mm-hmm.
But over the years between kindergarten and fourth grade, we learned how to mix colors with like watercolor, and we learned like the colors of the color wheel. But more intricate, maybe painting or crafts. But
You mentioned you use this fancy term, color wheel. What is a color wheel?
so a color wheel, it shows you the primary colors and the secondary colors, and it shows you what those colors make when they're mixed,
Mm-hmm.
and they teach you about like hues and value and things like that.
Hues. So there's what are the primary colors? You're teaching me something. I don't know any. I always go to Sears to get Sears clothes on. But I go to Home Depot to get colors. What are the primary colors if you know?
Red, blue,
Red, blue, and yellow. What's the secondary color?
green, purple, and orange.
Now where did you learn that from?
So we learned that in kindergarten.
In tell you what we learned in kindergarten. Wasn't the primary and secondary colors. You listen to the Body Talk program on the No Sap Radio Network, and we have Kylie and her father Jay, who are two. I'm gonna leave out the term up and coming. You two have arrived. You've had exhibits and so and other things, and you've sold things. Um, you don't have to give the exact amount. Okay. She and you have sold, but let's do Kylie first because we're going to absolve her from the IRS in this one. She sold works, and what did she sell? $10.
No, her photographs sell for 150, and her paintings range anywhere from 150 to $400 so far.
And she has sold photographs and paintings. Okay, and you sold paintings. Okay, and those sell for like $650. Can I get them in a dollar store?
No, my paintings average around $3,000 a painting.
$3,000 a paint, and that's good. Congratulations to the both of you. See, one of the things, and one reason I wanted the both of you on, okay, is the focus that we hear in Cleveland is all kids, not all kids, but a lot of kids are doing bad things. And we also hear the stories of the athletes, the kids, boys and girls, who play football or basketball, and they move on, maybe don't make it to the next level, which is a difficult thing to do because it's only 1% of us who make it.
Yeah.
Well, here we have this young 10-year-old and a dad, and she's attached to your daddy's little girl. And I know her mother is actively involved with her budding career and yours as an artist. And the three of you support each other, and that's important. And one thing that, more so, and I can only speak for myself, for my program, I try to show positive people, positive things that's going on, and where they want to go. So I'm going to ask you, when you get older, what would you like to do? Are you going to go off to college? Are you going to become an artist? What are you going to do?
So I want to go to college to be a psychologist,
Okay.
but I also want to take part in the mix.
Right. Have you looked at any colleges? You have any dreams so far?
I want to go to Kent State, Penn State, and I want to go to Harvard.
Harvard. Congratulations. Those are three excellent schools. And Kent State does have an excellent art program. They really do. If I remember, one of the Dorseys, husband and wife couple, I don't know if they're still there, but excellent art program at Kent State.
I also want to go to an HBCU.
HBCU. Now, what is an HBCU?
Historically Black College.
Okay, and that would be like Howard,
Yes.
FAMU, Grambling, Alabama State, and Tuskegee. And there's many, many, many more across the country. It was a pleasure having the both of you on the show, and it was an honor to sit and talk with you without holding court. Okay, and I only wish you continued growth and success in everything that you do. I really do. And again, I thank Jay and Kylie for being guests on Body Talk. And please, again, share with the audience how they can get in touch with you and Kylie for your art product.
You can come to my website, www.jaecapo.com. That's JAECAPO. It's also my Instagram. Her Instagram is Kylie the Creative, KYLIE the Creative. You can just reach us at those two places, and anything you want to do, get it done.
Okay, thank you again for being guests on Body Talk, and we're going to take a 5-minute break and come back and talk about everything politics in Cleveland, and with the primary focus on PB Cleve and Issue 1. All right, thank you. Would you like to see your dad?
Now, you guys, listen, I know that, well, I guess I shouldn't, so I'll keep it to myself. I know you hear the background. But look, here at No Static Radio, we do our History 365. And so today, I would like to once again introduce to some and reintroduce to others Mark E. Dean. Mark E. Dean was born on March 2nd, 1957. He is currently 66 years old. And guess what? He's still here. Uh, he has the celebrated alma maters of B.S. Electrical Engineering in 1979 from the University of Tennessee, M.S. in Electrical Engineering in 1982 at Florida Atlantic University, and a Ph.D. in Electrical Engineering in 1992 at Stanford University. His occupation, his main title, computer engineer. Yeah, he has a beautiful spouse, Denise Dean, and his parents are still with us. So look at that. Look at God. James Dean and Barbara Dean. So, as an American inventor and computer engineer, he developed the ISA bus, and he led a design team for making a 1 gigahertz computer processor chip. He's the creator of that. He holds 3 of 9 PC patents for being the co-creator of the IBM personal computer released in 1991, and in 1995, Dean was named the first ever Afro-American IBM Fellow. Dean was elected as a member into the National Academy of Engineering in 2001 for innovative and pioneering contributions to personal computer development. And in 2000, Mark discussed a handheld device that would be able to play and to display media content like a digital newspaper. A decade later, in 2011, Dean stated that he now uses a tablet computer instead of a PC in his blog. So in his earlier life, he was born in Jefferson City, Tennessee, where he displayed an affinity for technology and invention at a very young age. His father worked as an electrical equipment engineer for turbines and spillways. James would often bring Mark with him on work trips, introducing him to engineering. When Mark was young, he and his dad constructed a tractor from scratch. In middle school, Mark also had made up his mind to become an engineer, and Dean attended Jefferson City High School in Tennessee, where he excelled at both academics and athletics. While in high school during the 1970s, Mark built his very own personal computer. So look here, I'm gonna skip his career. You guys can go check that out. But real quick, as far as his recognition, Dean is the first Afro American to become an IBM Fellow, like I was stated earlier, which is the highest level of technical excellence at any company. In 1997, he was included into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. He was elected to the National Academy of Engineering in 2001, and in 1997, Dean was awarded the Black Engineer of the Year President's Award. And from 2018 to July 2019, Dean was the intern dean at the UT's Tickle College of Engineering. And as of April 26, 2019, April 25th is now officially marked Mark Dean Day in Knox County, Tennessee. How dope is that? Listen, this man and his patents, you guys really need to go and see. We're sitting up here playing with these phones and stuff like that, and all fields point towards our men, our melanated men, so called black men, Afro American men, brown skinned men. So listen, if you can't make it to a library, for whatever reason, I tell you guys every time, and take it in today. Google. Go Google your history. Anything that the light touches, anything you want to know. Knowing your history is knowing your now, and knowing your now is knowing people like Mark E. Dean. So we celebrate and salute him. I'm Decisive here on Body Talk, and now back to Ayl Bridges.
Thank you, Marie, for that information about 365-day Black History and information about helping women, which is one of the mantras of the station here. And before we get into the Everything Politics movement, again, I would like to thank the King family, Jay and Kylie, for being guests in the first hour. And I hope everybody has an opportunity to visit one of their upcoming exhibits. And I'm going to be quite honest and blunt with you. That young lady and her dad are sharp, very, very sharp. Uh, one of the things that is important to the listeners on Body Talk, which is a program for your mind, body, and soul. And this particular segment, the second hour, is titled Everything Politics Cleveland. And there's a couple issues, if not three, we're going to try to address. And if you have any questions or comments, you can email them to bodytalkradioprogram@gmail.com, or you can call area code 216-939-5087. The first topic is called PB Cleveland, or People's Budget Cleveland. And early in the summer, let's say starting late spring, this group collected enough signatures that were certified to be placed on the ballot in November to have a referendum that approximately 2% will be set aside of the City of Cleveland budget for citizens in and around the city to submit requests for. And you could be anywhere from 13 all the way up until you touch the grade to submit. And I'm going to give a high level review of some of the components of it. When it passes, not if, but when it passes, the mayor and city council will have equal selections of members, 5 each, to represent the community, to go through the different proposals that are submitted by the citizens. How did PB Cleve come about? In a nutshell, it came about because your elected representatives don't listen to you. If they would listen to the residents, and that doesn't mean a councilman or even the mayor is going to be able to do everything that the citizens suggest to them, but at least they could do something. And one of the issues that I've heard as I go around the city and talk to different people, that their councilmen and women don't listen to them. That's a generalization. There's 17 councilmen in the city of Cleveland. And we'll get to some specific ones later on. One of the things that I'm suggesting to all the listeners and viewers in Cleveland is do your own research on what PB Cleveland is all about. And you can go to their website, www.pbcle.com. Let me get that to you again, www.pbcle.com. It was interesting when this initiative or when this effort made the ballot, the spin factory picked up. The tales began to be told. Now, depending on who you talk to, you shouldn't use the term lie, but I am. The lies began to be told. Just last week, Monday, Blaine Griffin, who was the city council president, was in a meeting, a community meeting, and he said this: cities such as Los Angeles, Grand Rapids, and Boston weren't having any success with their PB efforts. He said he talked to the people there. That's interesting. But first off, let's do the easy one first. Boston is not even up and running. It's not implemented. Grand Rapids is successful in the 2 wards where they are participating. The next ward will be picked up next year, meaning the ward in the city. LA is full bore, and they're having a ball. Unscientifically, if you go back and look at Grand Rapids, which everybody complains about Cleveland, voter turnout, the voter participation effort of voter participation went up once PB was implemented. Now, let's see what the next cycle, election cycle, shows. If it continues to go up, then it might be what's called an independent variable, that the PB effort in Grand Rapids has engaged the citizens or the voter base in that city. Cleveland, across the board, just the Cleveland proper, I'm going to round it down, 59,500 people voted in the last election for the mayor and city council. That's less than freaking 12%. Now, if we get more than a 12% turnout in November in Cleveland, and PB Cleveland passes along with the other two items on that budget, on the ballot, and some other issues, then again, independently, you can say, PB Cleveland did have some impact in voter engagement or civic engagement, as it's preferred to be called. But let's go back to the comments that Blaine Griffin made in the community meeting. Granted, he mentioned the 3 cities that he didn't do his damn research on. Because again, Boston's not implemented. LA is running full bore, very successful, and so was Grand Rapids, Michigan. Then he went to what's called the spin or the scare tactic. Well, if this passes, it's just going to ruin the city of Cleveland budget. Let me apologize to my very loving parents because they would be upset because of the money I spent on my education, the money they invested in time they invested in me. No, the hell it won't. Just using the 2% marker that's in the law, when it passes, not if, but when it passes, it would represent about $12 to $14 million. There's always a budget surplus in the city of Cleveland. If you were to close the books today, you would see a surplus of approximately $314 million. So let's make the math easy. So when it passes and PB Cleveland gets $14 million, that still will leave a surplus of $300 million. PB Cleveland, the amount they're requesting would become a budget line, an expense line in the budget, no different than how you expense or you budget for other services. It's that simple. Now, the mayor said the same thing. It would have a negative impact on the budget. Well, let me ask you a question. If you're listening in and around the country, but more so in Cleveland, and I have nothing against growth and or development. Let me repeat that again. I have nothing against growth and or development in the city where you might live. One of the most attractive figures that is ever done for developers is you give what's called tax abatement. When you give tax abatement, there's a projection that's made, and we're just going to use a made-up amount. Well, if you give tax abatement to developer A and developer B, let's just say that equals $40 million a year, or $4 million. Let's make it easy, $4 million a year. But you never see a journal entry in the city books if that number was ever met. When they say, well, if you do this, we're going to bring revenue to the city, especially if it's a business, meaning income tax revenue. You do not see the corresponding journal entry. If any of you out there are accountants under GAAP, General Accepted Accounting Principles, it's a dual entry. What you take in, you got to put back out. Some kind of way. Got to be a corresponding entry. Now, $4 million might not make it $4 million in tax revenue in year one, but you never see it over time. You don't see that corresponding journal entry. So when somebody says, well, it's going to hurt the budget, look in the damn mirror,
Right.
and ask yourself, well, I just gave away $4 million to developer company X. Is that going to hurt? You never hear anybody say yes or no. The second thing, other scare tactic that was used. They said, well, if there's an economic downturn, well, let me see. Let me go back to my econ days as an undergrad and also in graduate school. When there's a downturn, there can be an upturn, or uptick as it's called. They never, Griffin nor the mayor, they both said, well, if there's an economic downturn, but talk about an uptick. And let's combine the uptick along with the quote unquote tax abatement that the city might give or do to different businesses and or developers. So if there's four entities, and again, making the math easy, 4 entities at $4 million in tax abatement apiece per year, that's $16 million a year. But PB Cleveland is only asking for $14 million for projects that the citizens want, that their council members don't listen to them. The other term that's also bannered about is transparency. Simple definition of transparency: something you can see the results. You can see what's happening. You can see the beginning, the middle, and ultimately the end. Transparency also means, well, can I see this at one given point in time? Would you give me that piece of paper so I can see it? That doesn't happen in this city. But they use the word. There's a councilman in Ward 1. Multiple requests have gone out to him. Can we see what you spent in our casino funds? Now his retort is, well, that's my money. Again, let me apologize to my parents. No, the hell it isn't. It's not yours. It's the citizens' money. Each councilman is given the same equal amount. Case in point, specific example. His casino funds. He said he spent $500,000 to cut grass in Ward 1. He said he spent $15,000 on a community newsletter. Take a soft stop. Each 17 councilmen are given 4 newsletters out of the general fund. 4, so that means 1 a quarter. The $15,000 he claims that he spent on this newsletter, not a damn soul received the newsletter in Ward 1. Now, we've asked for a copy of the newsletter. We've asked for a copy of the invoice, who printed it, etc., etc. We also asked, well, okay, you say you spent $500,000 to cut lines. That's a lot of money to cut grass in the city of Cleveland for senior citizens. Keep in mind that the city takes care of all the lots and vacant properties in and around the city. So how in hell can you say you spent $5,000 on cutting grass? This always said, well, transparency, right? Which he can't spell, but we asking for it. Give us the information, the documentation that supports the expenditure. Still nothing. Nothing. This goes back over damn near a year and a half. Nothing. But that's transparency. So let's move on here. He also cited his mentor, the person he admires the most, is a gentleman by the name of former councilman in Ward 4 by the name of Ken Johnson. Well, Ken Johnson is on an extended vacation right now. He was removed from office because he's doing about a 15 to 20 year stretch for fraud and theft while in office. And that's who you learn from? That's who you admire? That's a flag, a red flag in this particular case. So this all relates to PB Cleveland. Only thing the residents in and around the city of Cleveland want from Ward 1 to 17 is, can we do something that we want done? Can we take care of the parks? Can we put up, I'm just making things up, can we put up fancy colored concrete trash cans? Can we do murals on a wall? Can we do this? Can we give money to this entity or whatever? And remember, 5 members of this committee will be selected by the mayor and 5 members by the council. This is what Mr. Griffin said about that. Well, that's going to be right with fraud. You can't trust these damn people. Excuse me, you selecting them. You get your 5, meaning council, and the mayor gets his 5. So that means you're selecting people who are ripe to commit fraud. If you find out that they are doing that, you remove them. The other thing, and more so, I'm specifically talking about Cleveland. A year ago, the mayor said he would give $5 million. He supported $5 million for PB Cleveland. City council said, "Oh hell no, we're not doing that because, repeat, specifically, I quote, that's our money." And I'm gonna repeat it again. No, it's not your money. It's the citizens' money. If the $5 million were allocated or funded, whatever term you want to use, for PB Cleveland a year and a half ago, this effort might not even be in place. It could be, they might say, well, you know what? It was so successful. Well, maybe you should give us 7 or 10 million the next year. Maybe, the mayor, council said, no, that's too much. Now let's understand something about the political realm of things. Money means power. A lot of council people and or other elected folks walk around and say, well, I did this, I got you that, I did this, I did that. But people have gotten wise, but you're doing it with our money. It's not yours. And you're really not doing, technically, quote unquote, nothing directly for us. It should benefit the whole, the masses, but it's not your money. Now, I'll be fair. Let me be fair. Let me be transparent. There are some council members who support PB Cleveland. And it might be in an honest, direct way. Well, there are certain things they would like to see done, but they can't get done because it takes 9 votes to pass in the city of Cleveland, a simple majority. Regardless of where you fall in support of or against of, go do your own research. Go do your own homework. Look at your community. Look at your neighborhood. Look at your street. If you aren't happy in how the conditions on where you live, PB Cleveland, you should support. All politics aside, Ronald Reagan might have been the first person I recall saying this. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Does your community, I'm going to paraphrase it, does your community look any better than it does today than it did 4 years ago? I can speak specifically to Ward 1. No, the hell it don't. I know somebody who was running for office in Ward 1, and he told everybody, be sure you take a picture of where you live because this is the best you're going to see it. Depending on your age, your parents or your grandmother, grandparents, whoever would have said, this looks like a hellhole, and I'm cleaning it up because actually the word I'm going to use starts with S, but I declined the curse on my own program. Nothing gets done because certain people, I'm not going to ban all of them together, don't listen. All they have to do is listen and put an earnest, concerted effort forward. That's all they had to do. Now they get angry, coming out with all these tales and the scare tactics because the voters, the citizens, have spoken up. They're awake. This is what we would like to have done, and it's not happening. So if you want to know more about PB Cleveland, go to www, that's the World Wide Web, pbcle.com. Look on the website, read the information, call the number, have those individuals, the committee, the steering group, whatever term they go by, have them come out and talk to you, talk to your neighbors. You'll be surprised. You won't be disappointed. You'll be surprised. They're asking for one expense line in the budget to represent your concerns. Don't let anybody scare you. I'm going to go back and just like Mr. Downturn in the economy. Well, let me explain something to you, Mr. Griffin. What goes down goes up. What goes up does come down. Uptick the last 8 years, the downturn the last 8 damn months. Don't scare people. Don't tell people they're going to lose their trash collection. The Cleveland Public Health Department is going to close, and this is going to close, and that's going to close. But then what you're actually saying is you're going to obviate and disobey the ordinances of the city of Cleveland because by law those entities have to exist. So are they saying, or is he saying more so, well, if this doesn't happen, well, the state of Ohio is going to come in here and they're going to run the city of Cleveland? No, they're not. Because the city of Cleveland, over the last 20 years, has had a budget surplus. And PB Cleveland is just asking for one expense line in the city of Cleveland's budget. The city of Cleveland's budget this past year, or this current year, was $1.7 billion. So let's round that up. $2 freaking billion in PB Cleveland. And then in reality is not really going to get 14 million the first or second year. They're not. That's all they're asking for. One simple expense line and a $2 billion budget. And the city, so-called, I respectfully decline to use the term leaders because these individuals are not leaders. Leaders think strategically, they're honest, they're transparent, they have character, and they have integrity. And these people don't. Because the first thing that they should have said, well, we encourage, I'm proud that PB Cleveland has made the ballot. You can come out and say you don't support it. You can come out and say you do support it. But one thing you don't do, you don't come out and lie to people. And you don't come out and scare people. You can replace or help fix windows in an arena in Cleveland. You can help do things in certain stadiums in Cleveland. But you can't do things that the people, the citizens in the city of Cleveland would like to see done. That's telling. Let's move on to state issue number 1. Early voting has started. The actual voting date is August the 8th, next Tuesday. Issue 1 in a nutshell is currently to change the state constitution takes a majority, 50 plus 1. State issue 1, the ones who are supporting it, would change the 50 plus 1 to 60%. You say, wow, it's only 10% or 9%, depending on where you're looking. It's a big difference, though. The difference is, if you look at the voter turnout as it exists now, you never get 60%. So that means let's do this what we call long term and short term. We'll do the short term first. Short term is you got low voter turnout. To reach that 60% threshold to change the Constitution of the state of Ohio will be between now and never. An ice cube in a 450-degree oven has a better chance of survivability than under the current voting environment. That would never happen. Long term, with the short term gain. If you look and say, well, you got the abortion amendment on the ballot, you have the marijuana amendment on the ballot, and you have whatever else on the ballot. if those existed today and this initiative passes, it would be difficult either to add something or to remove it. If you're a woman, even if you can be a man and support the abortion issue, but they call it women's health issues, call it what they label it. If that was trying to get on the ballot to become constitutional in the state of Ohio, it wouldn't make it under the 60% rule. But we know what's sort of strange? The U.S. Senate uses the 60 vote rule to change cloture. It's one of the few entities across this globe that requires a 60% vote, not 50%. Some entities in and around Cleveland require a 60% vote, for example, to grab an endorsement. Not 50%, not 50 plus 1, but 60%. Now there's a diametrical difference. You're talking about putting something on the Constitution, you're talking about somebody receiving an endorsement. But 60% is 60% if you just follow the logic. So before anybody rails about what one entity does, be sure you look in your own freaking house to be sure you're not doing the same thing. Because 60% is 60%. 4/4 is no different than somebody having a paper dollar bill or somebody having 100 pennies. It's all $1. The unique thing, again, about State Issue 1, everybody wants to point the fingers at the at the Republicans. It's the Republicans doing this. The Republicans doing it. Republicans doing this, Republicans doing that. That's interesting. They are. It's their initiative. The only thing, you could be a Republican, or you could be from an opposing party, you could be Democrat, Independent, Socialist, whatever, Green Party, whatever you want to call yourself. The problem is, nobody wants to vote anymore. We don't vote. So if you're in the opposing party or entity and you're against Issue 1, what you should also be doing is rallying people to go freaking register to vote so they can go out and not only shoot this down, but prospectively win the Ohio House and Senate back. If you don't like what's going on, don't complain in the shadows. Be transparent. Stand up and say, I don't like this and we got to do something. And the only thing that we can do is go vote. Go vote. We stay at home. That's why I don't want to call it crap or garbage, but that's why certain stuff passes. Because we pass too. What's the guy's name? Isaac Hayes. He had this long, I think the song was almost 22 minutes. Walk on by. We just have a tendency to walk on by. We don't vote. Get out and vote. Stop complaining and vote. It also goes back to, when you talk to people, and I do a lot of listening with people. Well, I don't like the candidates. Really? You mean you couldn't find one iota difference between this clown and this person? So you decide not to vote. It's almost like going to an endorsement meeting and sitting there and say, I pass. Really? You should just stay at home. And that's what a lot of people are doing. We are staying at home. And I'm identifying black voters. Our grandparents, great-grandparents fought too hard. They died hard for us to vote. We talk about voter suppression. Well, let me be blunt with you. Let me be very direct. You go to the voting poll, your voting location, and they say, well, you know what? You're in the book but you need your driver's license and a utility bill. If you want to vote, you'll take your butt back home and get a damn utility bill. If you come back with your license and utility bill, and they say, well, you also need a Hershey bar. Well, go to the corner store, go to the drugstore, bring your driver's license, utility bill, and a Hershey bar so you can vote. Now, not everybody, a lot of people say, well, there's not enough voting machines. Well, that's not a national issue. That's not even a state issue. That's a local issue. Because if voting place X or polling place X only has a 3% turnout, they're not going to have 30 voting machines in that location. They're going to move them around. Sometimes, and I voted a couple of weeks ago, did early voting. There were more people working the polls than were voting. Now, it could be different on the 8th. That doesn't include mail-in ballots. Now, I don't know about you. I'm not a big fan I'm not too trusting of the post office these days. I still receive mail from people who live 3 blocks away from me. I don't necessarily trust the mail to mail in my ballot. And I understand if I was homebound or crippled or whatever, I might pay somebody I do trust to drive it down to the Board of Elections and drop it in the box. But to drop your statement in the mail these days, and the post office is telling people, you really got to be careful what you mail today. That's just me. I'm going to vote in person, or if I do decide to vote by mail, color the bubble, seal the envelope, and I'll drive it down to the Board of Elections. We have to start voting. We have to start voting intellectually versus emotionally. And intellectually, I don't mean you have to have some highfalutin fancy degree. That means you pay attention, you read, you listen, you read, you listen, you go to and hear what those candidates are saying, understand what the issues are, and then you make your decision. Stop voting emotionally. Stop voting on the fact, well, he or she went to the same high school I did, or they dated my 5th cousin, or whatever the case might be. That's emotional voting. Or they're there now, and I'll keep them in office. Or I feel sorry for so and so because he or she was adopted. Their parents dropped them on the head when they were 6, or whatever. Stop it. You keep doing what you're doing, you'll keep getting what you got. And if you look around the city of Cleveland, I'm not saying that the buildings aren't going up. You see the cranes in the sky. Certain areas look beautiful. Just take a picture of what your community looked like 4 years ago and say, is it better today than it was now? And the majority of people that I have spoken to have said no. The other thing, and that's enough about state issue 1, listen to both sides. You decide where you make your decision. I prefer, and I'm not going to do it and tell people you should vote issue 1 or you should vote against this or vote for PV Cleveland. I'm not going to do that. Your vote is sacrosanct. Your vote is between you and that machine and the grand total on either side. You make up your own mind, but make up your mind. And if you decide to listen to somebody, be sure you're listening to somebody who's informed. If you listen to a fool, you don't get foolish advice and or direction. Listen to the people who know and understand and are willing to answer your questions. It's important. The most important thing that anybody can do as a citizen in a city, a county, a state, and or this country is to vote. Don't throw your voice away. Your vote determines, if you're talking about a personal election between 2 candidates, your vote determines your character and integrity. If you vote for a thief, That's defines who you are. That's what you know that, and that's what you're gonna vote for. I don't know, and quite often you hear me speak of maybe my parents or somebody else, another older relative. If you do share with somebody you do respect, and you say, "Well, I just voted for whoever," and they look at you and say, "Are you a fool? Did you know about this person?" That makes you foolish. Now, granted, you can vote for whom you want, but then you have to live with the consequences of the decision that you have made. And that's sad. I thought as a people, we were much more intelligent, sharper, smarter than that. Walk around Cleveland, I go to different meetings, even sometimes when I'm out of town, and more so in Cleveland. People say, "Well, I felt sorry for him. That's why I voted for him." Well, and I'm not making light of or fun of anybody's situation. Well, let me take you to the homeless shelter. Those are people you should really feel sorry for, or unsheltered is the new term. You voted for somebody because you felt sorry for them. Think about that. You didn't vote for him because he or she could do a better job than what you have. You voted because you felt sorry for him. I ran into a young lady who said she would never vote again because the person she voted for lost. And when I was talking to her, and more so listening to her, she had on the Cleveland Browns jersey, and she said, "No, I'm never going to vote again because the person I voted for didn't win." And I said, "Well, you a Browns fan?" She said, "Yes." I said, "She got a jersey on. She had number 95 on." And I said, "Did the Browns go to the Super Bowl?" She said, "No." I said, "But you have the jersey on." And she stopped for a minute. We used a bad term. She used that. We had that pregnant pause in the conversation. And she stood there and she said, "I never thought of it that way." And she said, "Yes, I'm going to go out and vote this year." In any election, the issue will win or the issue will lose. The candidate will win or the candidate will lose. And I'll be quite candid with you, and more so in a individual election, two people running for office. Nobody actually loses. Yeah, both people don't assume the seat that they're running for, but the person who didn't gain the sufficient number of votes really didn't lose because they did something, just using an award in the city of Cleveland. They did something that 22,000 other people didn't do. They ran. They ran. They spoke their mind. They spoke to the issues. They spoke for what they wanted to see happen, the vision that they would have. And that doesn't preclude that person, if they don't win, that doesn't preclude he or she from participating or attending community meetings or anything else that involves their community. There was a councilman, I was in a meeting where a gentleman was addressing him, and he said, "Well, this person ran against me." What the hell does that have to do with somebody asking you a question? Now, he was unable to answer the question, but that's his excuse. The last thing or item I want to bring up, all political, more so Cleveland. Cleveland is in the throes of an uptick in violence, more so amongst juveniles from 13 up to 18. And again, let's make this easy. Let's make the world absolutely honest. At age 21, anybody can go buy a gun. You go to the gun store, fill out an application, They send it to the FBI, it's scanned in, the FBI comes back, says, so-and-so can buy this. They have no felonies, no holes or whatever. They buy a gun. What is a 13-year-old doing with a gun? What is a 14-year-old? Anybody between the age of 13 and 20 shouldn't have a gun. But in the real world, we know they do because we're experiencing it here in Cleveland. Let's say 6, 7 years ago, the city of Cleveland went through some issues where they said, we got to stop this mass incarceration. We got to stop this excessive bail. And we have to be softer on juveniles when they commit crimes because they're just kids. And depending on the psychologist you talk to, most people's brains aren't fully developed until you reach age 25. A 13-year-old pulls a gun on you to take your car. And let's pray that they don't shoot you. Anybody between 13 and 21 and 20, 21 or 20, they pull a gun on you, they can steal your car. Let them take the car. That becomes the insurance company's issue. Somebody you call and say, somebody stole your car. About 3-4 days ago, 12 juveniles pulled up in a gas station, and it doesn't matter if this man did say something or didn't say something to him. They began to just beat him. 12 to 13 people just beat him. Fortunately, the man survived. They kicked him, beat him. Then they jumped in their cars. Come to find out, most of them were stolen. The Kia and the Hyundais. And they decided to drive up the street and shoot randomly at buildings. That's no longer a kid. I'm not advocating or encouraging anybody out here. If you've ever had a gun pulled on you, it's not a fun experience. If you've ever shot at somebody, that's not a fun experience. If you've ever been shot at, that's not a fun experience. 3 or 4 days prior to that, the assistant director of the Cleveland FBI office stood at a podium and he said, Cleveland has a gang problem. That's the first time in a long time anybody in law enforcement has said that in the city of Cleveland. Didn't hear that from the mayor's office or the administration. Didn't hear it from the Cleveland Police Department. Really didn't hear it from anybody in city council. But this federal agent stood up there and said, Cleveland has a gang problem. And to help address the gang problem, the U.S. attorney, who the FBI works hand in hand with, we're probably going to bring RICO charges against these individuals. That's the racketeering statute, federal government. That means you go away for a long time. By the time you get out, the world has changed. If you ever get out. One of the first people who's ever used on was a gentleman by the name of Rayful Evans in Washington, D.C. Put his whole family underground in a prison in West Virginia. His pregnant sister, his father, himself, and a couple of his friends still there. That's what the RICO statute does. Go back 2 weeks prior to that statement from the FBI agent. The mayor stood up and he blamed the Republicans for the guns on the street. That's just like telling a teacher, the dog ate my homework, that's why I ain't got it. Republicans didn't put the guns on the street. Anybody who wants a gun, again, making the world safe, can go on whatever corner, I don't care if it's in the hood or the suburbs, and you can buy a gun. Maybe for $100, $200, $300, depending on what gun you're going to purchase. And hopefully you have a fair exchange. You give them the money, they give you the gun, everybody drives off. You can buy a gun on just about any corner, street Cleveland, if you want one. Or you can go to a gun store. Or what they call it, they have strawman purchases. Fancy term for somebody who is of age who will pass the background check, will go in the gun store, buy whatever gun that kid or whoever wants, come out. They already have given them the money, give them the gun, and they walk away. They probably pay them maybe $150, $200 to make the purchase. It's a straw man. purchases. You know, one of the things that is astonishing here, again, the mayor said it, blame it on the Republicans. Then he turned around and said, no, let's blame it on the judicial system. But it was, I'm going to use his generation and whatever progressive means. They were the ones who fought against excessive bail. They fought against mass incarceration. And let's make it light on juveniles. Now, one of the things, now I'm not trying to say somebody who's a frequent jaywalker should end up on death row. I think that's foolish and silly. But the other thing that's important here, if you don't enforce the small or the little laws, that person generally escalates. You know, if you drive around certain neighborhoods in Cleveland, you see cars parked on the sidewalk in front of businesses, although there's an empty parking lot less than 50 feet away. These people elect to park on the sidewalk, which makes it difficult for people to walk by their car, and sometimes they're looking out the window. You might kind of stumble into their car and they want to come out and harass and harangue you or even kind of slap you around, whatever the case might be. If you don't enforce the small laws, such as that, it gets worse. Now, I'm not blaming the police. Now, you might see a zone car drive by and you're pointing at where the cars are parked on the sidewalk, but they don't stop. They just keep going. You know, one of the things that, and I mentioned earlier, I'm not against development by any means, or being an entrepreneur. Not everybody, that's fine. You want to be an entrepreneur? Fine. But your business might not have any business in my neighborhood. Now, I find it kind of ridiculous where you have certain people stand up, well, we're against smoking, we're all for health and all that, but the same person lets 2 vape shops come into his neighborhood less than 4 blocks apart. And if, again, you do your own research, you do the history on vape shops. They have a history of degrading your property values. They also have a history of attracting unsavory people. It also increases the smoking in your community, more so amongst teenagers who aren't supposed to be smoking under the state laws or Ohio Revised Code here. You're really not supposed to sell them anything, but they do. And more so through those vape pipes or whatever let's say vape pipes, your lead content increases, so you're sucking in lead. And Cleveland's trying to fight the lead problem as it stands, but we let vape shops in. More so in the black community. I was driving around Greater Cleveland, and I noticed certain things all of a sudden. Now you see these vape shops popping up like you used to see hamburger shops all over, hamburger restaurants all over the place. And they're not popping up in the ritzy glitzy neighborhoods. They're popping up in what's labeled here as entering suburbs. That's code speak for predominantly black, brown, or white, but more so code speak for black neighborhoods. They're popping up like freaking toast in a toaster all of a sudden. So that maybe some councilman or whoever can say, well, I'm doing business development. Yeah, but you're not doing good business. Mm-hmm. Not all money is good money.
Right.
And it's okay that family or person or whatever wants to own a vape shop. You let them own it, but they don't have to own it in your neighborhood. Mm-hmm. They're popping up like crazy on the west side now, the near west side in Cleveland. Around the West 25th and Fulton Avenue. There's like 2 or 3 of them, just boom, overnight, they're there. You know, one of the things that, and for those of you who follow the show here, I'm adamant about education, and I'm not speaking to the new CEO of CMSD, Cleveland Metropolitan School District. Fix the freaking schools. These kids have no hope. Fix the schools. The other thing, also going back to the violence, I don't need to know the what. We know what the what is. People are getting their cars stolen, people are getting shot, people are getting assaulted, people are getting murdered. That's the what. Find out the why. The why might be 50 variables. It could be 5. Find out the why. Why is a 13-year-old still in my car, pulling a gun on me, hit me with his gun, or you got some girl standing behind him, hollering, shoot him, shoot him, shoot him. We talking about kids 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, 12. I don't know, I cannot recall the young lady's name. She was the one who murdered Officer Bartek when she was still in his car in the parking lot. This girl had been doing this at 13, since 13 years old. She would steal the cars and would call her friends. You still looking for a car to use this weekend? She was renting a cars out. Now, you know, term frequent flyer. Frequent flyer. Something is wrong with her. And I'm not saying, yeah, she should have been in jail. There's no doubt about that. Let me change. She should have been in prison somewhere. But find out the why, not the what. The why. The other thing is the assault on women in this city is out of hand. It's out of hand. But nobody wants to do anything. The police do their job. You call, the police show up, they take the report. 2 or 3 days later, it goes over to the city prosecutor, and it sits there for 8, 9 damn months. It could be a simple assault, which is a misdemeanor, because that's all Muni Court can handle in the city of Cleveland and most jurisdictions across the country. But it sits. The women are not contacted. They become afraid to go out. If you've ever been traumatized by an assault, especially a physical or sexual assault, it's not funny. Nobody calls them. Nobody ever tells them, well, we don't think we can win the case, so we're not going to go forward with it. But now say that, well, I don't really think you've been assaulted. Tell that to that lady. She has not necessarily the bruises or the wounds, but tell that to that lady. Now, there was a case that I read that was sickening. The prosecutor said there was no blood or bruises. That's why they didn't prosecute the case, although the young lady was assaulted with a witness there, present. If you read the Ohio Revised Code, it doesn't say you need to have a teaspoon of blood, a quart of blood, or 16 bruises. The one thing that you do in most assault cases, you work with the victim to prove that either she's telling you the truth or not telling you the truth. I did assault cases in the military. We did everything we could to prove that lady was telling the truth. Now, if she wasn't, there were some consequences for her, especially if she was a military member. We convicted flag officers for sexual and physical assault. That's a fancy term in the Navy for generals. We convicted senior officers, male and female, for assault. But not in the city of Cleveland. It has a tendency to linger. And if you're familiar with the Ohio Revised Code, you have a 2-year window to adjudicate misdemeanors. They just sit and sit and sit and sit. But it depends on who you are. Depends on who you are. If you got a familiar relationship with somebody, you get expedited justice. That's when Lady Justice takes that blindfold so she can see who she's supposed to be taking care of. Before I go, there's a couple things I'm going to do real quick. A Black History moment of somebody that most people aren't familiar with. Then I got a birthday wish to somebody. This is the Black History moment, 365 days a year, by a gentleman by the name of Mr. Ventnor Woodson Tandy. He's the first registered Black architect in New York State. He's the first Black to belong to the American Institute of Architects, AIA. He's the first Black man to pass the military commissioning exam in the United States. He's a graduate of Cornell. Let me just give you 2 of his design works. The first one is the Phillips Episcopal Church in Harlem. Outstanding work of architecture if you've ever seen it. It's still there. Did that in 1918. also in 1919, 1918 time frame, he created the Villa Verloso home of Madam C.J. Walker. It went down as one of the best architectural structures ever designed. That's Mr. Vintner Woodson Tandy. On August the 3rd of this year, and I normally don't do this, but we're going to have a happily heavenly birthday for a good friend of mine, a relative. He was my older brother.
Mm.
He was killed in the Air Force. He was an Air Force officer. We were 18 months apart. And the last time I had a chance to speak with him, we both were at home visiting our parents. And we were sitting on the edge, on the end of our twin beds. I don't know why my parents kept them, but they did. His name was Thierry. And he looked at me and he said, everything we do from this day forward is for our parents. It's for them. He said, if they need a dime or a dollar, we got it. He said, if we have speaking engagements or whatever, it's for them. About 62 days later, he was killed. And I picked up the mantle of what we talked about. I used to fly my parents in when I would do conferences, flying first class, and did some other things for them that was nobody's business. And one day, and let me back up, when I came home and found out that he had been killed, my mother was sitting on her bed, and when you hear, it's not crying, it's a wail, especially of a mother who has lost her child. You don't want to hear that. And when you do, you don't ever want to hear it or experience it again. You don't. As I went on through my military career, I served as a Casualty Affairs Officer, CACO. That's when you knock on the door and you have to tell a mother, a father, or wife that their loved one had been killed in action or just killed in an accident, whatever the case might be. And they grab you, they're crying on your uniform, they're screaming, and more so focusing on the mother. You don't ever want to experience that, you know. So, on August the 3rd, and just to let you know, I named my daughter after my brother.
Mm.
And with my parents' permission, because I didn't want them to linger with the name every time they would talk to her or see her. And they said, fine, and we respect or appreciate that you asked. So a heavenly birthday on August the 3rd. This is Body Talk, and thank you, and I'll see you next week.
We'd like to thank you for tuning in to Body Talk with your host, Ayl Bridges, here at the station where we don't bring no static, but we sure not bring the noise on staticradio.net. Make sure you guys check us out on social media where we absolutely love to hear from you on Facebook.com/No Static Radio, on on Twitter at No Static _ Radio, on Instagram at The Real _ No Static Radio, on YouTube at No Static Radio, and our newest platform, Discovered.tv. Also, if you guys would like to listen to replays of this show and others, please check us out on Mixer or Mixcloud.com. Just type in No Static Radio on the toolbar for replays of this show and all others, and for continuous streaming. That means no interruptions. You don't have to worry about refreshing the page. It'll do everything on its own, including throw you in a couple of entertaining commercials at tunein.com, liveonlineradio.net, or Media Q for continuous streaming of this show and all others, and for all things No Static Radio, including up and coming events, merchandise, and an in-depth look at all our great show hosts here. Please check out our website at www.nostaticradio.net. You guys, we are currently under construction with the website, but you can still go on there and listen and watch the shows, because we do have a new embedded player for you guys on there, so that you don't have to worry about, if you don't want to go to YouTube, if you don't want to go to Facebook or any of those other platforms, you can do it all on at one site, and that's www.nostaticradio.net. Listen for all things No Static Radio, like I said, including up and coming events, merchandise, and end up look at all our great show hosts here. And for better or for worse, we want you guys to enjoy the day. Today is Tuesday, August 1st. I would like to take a moment to wish a very happy 21st birthday to my fabulous nephew, Kenny James Kennedy. Happy 21st birthday out there in Vegas. You be safe, you be good, take care of yourself, and I love you. Happy birthday. See you soon. In the meantime, in between time, you guys, you know what it is. We've got more reason for your listening pleasure, followed by later on this evening from 6:30 to 8:30, introducing one of our newest shows, The Grapevine Show. Yes, The Grapevine Show with King and Queen Grape. You guys, look, super dope talk. New station, same height. I'm super excited to have them on board. So you guys make sure you tune in this evening at 6:30 p.m. where we get things started. Super excited, you guys. Super duper excited. Well, super duper excited. So with that being said, you guys, look, have a great one. We'll talk to you soon and enjoy the show. I'm super excited to have them on board. So you guys make sure you tune in this evening at 6:30 p.m. where we get things started. Super excited, you guys. Super duper excited. Well, super duper excited. So with that being said, you guys, look, have a great one. Talk to you soon and enjoy